just yes. That is a carp, huh? Stand-up paddleboard. Hot sunny day, beautiful day for filming. Got the polarized lens on the GoPro. Today I'm gonna give you a walkthrough of my stand-up paddleboard, but it's not technically just a paddleboard, it's a pedalboard. They call these an SUP, stand-up paddleboard. If you're looking on search engines and trying to find fishing with an SUP, that's a good way to search. First of all, I got this cover for it. It doesn't quite fit, but it works. And one of my few complaints with this thing, I have two complaints. One of them that is really, really fragile, especially on the bottom down here. The other complaint is they don't have a lot of things to attach to. Let's take this out and take a look at it. What you do here is you just plug this piece in, give it a little twist to lock it, and that is your handlebar. And you can see I've actually put ram balls on it. Now they sell these little plastic straps, but they've broken almost immediately. So what I did is I put a 100-pound test or 200-pound test fishing line and really wrapped it in there so that it's just super sturdy. The reason I have two of them here, one of them is for the anchor, and I've learned that you'd absolutely need an anchor with this thing. It floats really quickly across the lake if you don't anchor up. So what I do is I buy one of these very cheap anchors and a little scuba diving reel that just lets the line out really easily and quickly, reels back up fairly easily. And then after you've dropped the anchor out, you simply just wrap the line on this thing. And that's really quick, it holds it, and you're constantly anchoring and re-anchoring, so I like to have something really quick and something in the center mass on this thing. Now they also make these little attachments, so that way you hook these on like this, and then the way you steer this thing is you actually pull the handle, pull this way to go left, pull this one to go right, and that actually draws those little cables up and changes the rudder. The rudder is sold, the rudder comes separate, and this is a little bit of a complaint also, I guess, is you have to actually reach underneath and hook this thing on, and it's a little tricky, especially when you're in shallow water, like muddy water, rocky water. So that can be tricky, but that's pretty straightforward. Next, you got the foot pedal pieces, you just plug that in. It's real straightforward, it goes in really smooth, works really, really well, it just flies across the water. It automatically locks, it comes out really, really easily. Finally, I've got my cooler here. This is actually a bait cooler. This is my most unique contribution to the stand-up paddleboard as far as fishing goes. What I do is I set this on here. I mounted this metal bracket off the back so it wouldn't tip backwards. And I put some composite board on here. And then I actually put composite board on the inside as well. And then I bolted that in. Just so the plastic didn't have to take all that pressure and stress. And finally I did the same thing on this side. On this edge I did composite board, and I put a ram mount here. This one I put on here as a rod holder. You can get these ram ball mount rod holders. It's really important to have a rod holder when you're out fishing on something like this. There we go. So that screws in, you can change the angle, and you've got a place to put your rod. It locks in here so that the rod doesn't fall out. Pretty slick rod holder. Now the other aspect of this particular setup, as you can see, I've actually got like another piece of composite board coming off here in like an L shape. And if you look underneath here, I've actually got like steel brackets. And these are L brackets that hold this thing up. So this thing is surprisingly sturdy. And the reason I have it here actually is because when I night fish, this is a real unbelievable tool for night fishing for muskie. So you can basically just truck around the lake, super quiet. But it's nice to have some light. So I got my rigid work light here, and I just happen to have this light anyway. I have a number of batteries for this thing. It's got great lumens, and you can just set it on here and then twist this bolt into the bottom. And in my cooler piece here, I actually include the wrench to really crank this down so it stays really tight while you're moving around and splashing on the water. So that's kind of unique to me, but I like to night fish. I also keep a headlamp in here, so come over here. I keep a dry box in here. So if this thing flips over, I've got my phone, I've got my keys in a separate dry box, although this cooler itself is technically a dry box. I keep a headlamp or two, a couple headlamps in here. Once you catch a fish, I could potentially have a rod, or excuse me, I could also include a net right here in this holder. And I put these paddle connectors here, but they don't hold the paddle very tightly. So I wasn't too excited about that. So instead of that, I actually put a paddle holder here. I like this one better. It doesn't take much of a paddle for this setup because you really just need the paddle just to get away from the shore a little ways, and then you can get those foot pedals in, and you really never need the paddle after that. So the last thing on this setup is actually my ram mount. I've got this giant, super long one. It's on my website if you want to look it up, but you plug it into here. All right, now you can see, as you can see here, now I've got a swinging and rotating arm, and I can mount the GoPro here. In theory, I could also run a cable down and keep it plugged into a battery. I don't on this thing because it's easy enough to just stand there and change the battery out without falling over. And I generally run 2 cameras. I've got one on my head. I've got that one in the back on the cooler. In theory, I could put one up here too. I've tried that to get that third angle, which is really nice. This is how I broke the ram mount initially, by putting this thing on here and it was bouncing around and snap that off. Now it'll stay on here with this 200-pound test line. So I might take some new angles with this GoPro as well. But I think the most important angle is that head angle and then the one behind you, because that one gets a long ways away from the foot pedal board. So that's it. I hope you learned something from this walkthrough of my foot pedal stand-up paddle board. It's very unique. I'm kind of proud of that cooler setup. Completely made it up from scratch. I mean, I like something to sit on when I'm out there. When you're night fishing, you need a place to put stuff. In general, you need a place to put stuff. I really like this tool. It's fun. You're gonna see it a lot on the water.
Keep it up. Oh, that's a force maggie. Biggest bass by far you've ever caught. Girl, you catch bigs. Gee, you catch whoppers, buddy. That's gonna be another 4-pounder. Holy cow, Maggie. Let's weigh that puppy before we let him go, huh?
Oh, yes. That's okay.